think that goes back to the question you asked me about what I practice when I do practice. Obviously, when I practice, I really get into the technical stuff that I need to get together. So timekeeping, dynamics are really important, especially for drummers. You don't want to be loud all the time or too quiet. So that's a really important thing to work on. Being musical, working with soloing. I mean, this practice diary I've got is massive, as you can imagine. There's loads of different stuff that I work on all the time, and there's still more I need to do, and still more that I do already, but I want to do better. So it's never-ending sort of growth. But I find that when you're working on that stuff and you're sort of tempering it down and getting it and watering it down to being where you can literally close your eyes and then it just flows. You don't have to look at it, you don't have to feel it, you can just play it, it just comes out. Then I find that that's the point where someone from the practice room that I've practiced like that, very slowly, very carefully, when I want to perform it live, if I haven't done the stages to get it right, then it doesn't come out. So I might try it and it'll fall apart and I'll bring something else in. And most of the time, nobody really knows, but I know. So that means I go back to the rehearsal room. But over the years, because I'm quite good at practicing, because of these stages of doing it slowly, doing it correctly, making sure it's all there, listening back to it, recording it sometimes to see how my posture is, being very, very sort of precise about what I'm doing means that when I'm in a solo situation, or any improvised situation, if someone says, right, we're just going to do this, I tend to relax and think, okay, because I've got all of these things in my sort of like grab bag of tricks, I can do all these things and they're reasonably up together and I know I can use them. The ones that I can't use yet, I'll keep on the back burner. And then I can go into that situation and perform confidently. So at a jazz gig, or if she never asked me, but if Sue had said, right, do a drum solo, Rob, for a minute, I wouldn't have panicked. I'd been like, yeah, I'm very comfortable in that situation because I've practiced enough to be in that situation and do it. So obviously doing drum clinics and all those things that I do when I'm just the only performer, or sometimes I'm with people that are famous as well. Same difference. I go out there and I just play what I play. It all comes from what I've developed. I don't let anything else get in the way and try and measure my performance against somebody else's. Just totally clear my mind and use what I've got in my resources. And a clinic the other day, I realised I'd use that sort of analogy from Iron Man, which is bizarre. But in Iron Man, he's got these computers that are in the air, and he brings different things in with his fingers and then throws them away and puts them in the trash can. And I like to think that where it starts, my kind of my zone is full of these ideas, and then basically what I do mentally and musically is I strip them away and move them away, but they don't go anywhere, they just go to the side because I don't need them at that moment. And there's other times I bring them back in, so my mind's constantly working on what's going to work in this situation, what doesn't. Sometimes I end up down a bit of a dark alley and then I come back the other way. But it's if I don't have those options through practice and proper thorough practice, then I've got nowhere to go. And you end up just repeating yourself and there's no creative buzz and nothing happens. So I find the people that don't work on enough on their technique and their playing, they tend to sort of back off from soloing, which is a bit of a shame, really, because that's one time that you can really express yourself and your feelings, apart from being, with other musicians, which of course is the best way of sharing it. But if you're given your one time to have your musical statement, I always think it's a bit of a shame when a drummer certainly can't sit there and piece some ideas together to make a sentence and to make something happen.
So it's interesting you say that you have your practice, your building blocks.
Yes.
Really, and then you it's like a supermarket, you just pull them away into your trolley.
Absolutely.
It's quite interesting analogy.
But a lot of people, though, tend to practice the wrong things. Again, I'm not the one to say what everyone should be practicing, but certainly for a drummer, the things I said about timing, basic general technique, dynamics, those things, are really, really important. And I think the soloing is kind of an extra thing that when you've got the time to add that in, it's good. But if you're just in a gigging situation, those three things, and, you could put that to a pianist with scales and stuff, and a guitarist. If you put that all, and singers, everybody, they've got their little things that they put away to one side and think, I won't do that. Those are the things that when you're in a situation, actually you need. But for a drummer, I would say those are the things to concentrate on, because I know some drummers that concentrate so much on being flashy. You ask them to play 4/4, and indeed with the guitarists, I've seen it. They can do all this shaking it around. We say, right, let's just do a blues or something, and they're like, what? I don't do that. I can just go blah, blah, blah. And it happens on all the instruments. Saxophone players, they can play out, but you ask them to play in, they can't do it. So I think every instrument's got its things that you need to get down to get the job done. Then everything else kind of, if you've got that down, then your mind instantly works on how can I get better, and that's when the soloing fills come in for drummers, and that's how it just keeps pushing and pushing and pushing. And a creative mind just lets that happen. But if you haven't got the building blocks to start with, you ain't got anything.
Would that be a bit of advice for people starting out?
Oh, definitely.
To lock that down.
Definitely. I mean, no matter what instrument you play, get your basics down. With a teacher as well, if you can. That's a teacher you can get on with, because I know a lot of people complain about some teachers. But when you find someone you can get on with and you can work with, they'll put you way ahead of someone who sort of cuts themselves off from that. I mean, I was very lucky, as I say, I had my father to teach me, so I had someone there all the time for constant, that's wrong, that's right, okay, he's having his tea. No, that's wrong, well, shut up, I won't have my tea. It was just all the time, or go in the next room. But I was always tapping, always playing, and I think that's the thing. When you've got someone to guide you, the bad habits disappear very quickly, and then you're on your way. And once you've got that ground, then you can do what you like. As long as you've got your foundation, then you can forget your teacher if you want and go and do whatever you want, and then your natural creativity will come out again. But I think for whatever you're doing, some people have got natural talent, I know that, but it's good to have someone else just to guide you along the way. Even if you're that talented, you don't need them. They can just maybe show you 2 things that will put you back on a better road, and then you can leave them again. So thanks, I'm off now, mate, and go. That's better than never having advice from older or younger teachers.
So we may have already covered it, but what's the top tip, really, if you're going to sort of pick one piece of advice?
Have a huge That's my top tip. Top tip. Top tips. Well, somebody asked me that the other day for a drum magazine and said, what advice would you give? Obviously, I've given just a load just then.
Yeah. Bring you dry.
Yes, totally, like a flannel. But I've given quite a lot, I think, in those questions, and I don't think I tried to sort of channel it down into a few answers for this magazine, and I just couldn't do it, because there's so many bits of good advice that you can give. It's hard to sort of, and I've always thought this when I've seen other people in interviews, and I think that must be easy to answer a question like that. And it's quite a broad thing. So out of the 6 or 7 questions you've asked, I think there's quite a lot in there already. I think one thing I haven't talked about is just generally being, an open person when it comes to performing, because we were talking about performing music, being open to ideas, being a good person and receiving them, and also giving them, and being creative. And if people don't like your idea, it takes a lot for you to not knock them out or shout them down. You've got to learn to be diplomatic and fight your corner when you need to, but also be very sort of gallant in backing down. There's nothing worse than ill communication between people. Bad communication is why most bands split up, why most people in offices can't work together. It's just communication. And be creative and open when it comes to working with others. Don't close yourself off to your own ideas. Open yourself out. As I found, it makes your life a lot better if you can accept other people in.
More opportunities.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Cool.
Was it all right?
Brilliant, yeah.
Yeah?
It's probably about 20 minutes of stuff there.
Sorry, it's a bit long.
Right.
What
I'll do is I'll sort of edit it and...
Do you want me to turn this on now? I haven't touched it. It's recording, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.